Game's over, Lenny. Are you gonna come out like a good little boy? Or do I have to come in there and get you?
Promise you won't hurt me?
I promise.
You know, somehow I find that hard to believe. Come on, lady, you promised.
You were right, Lenny. But I had my fingers crossed. Now say goodbye.
Well, the old saying's true. The pen really is mightier than the sword.
Welcome to They Call This a Movie, testing the strength of friendships one terrible movie at a time. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and podcast services by searching They Call This a Movie, finding us on Twitter and Instagram at TicTamPod. That's TCTAM Pod. Welcome back to They Call This a Movie. This is Anthony Delvecchio. With me, as always, is Dan Aquino and Mark Meyer. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hey, friends.
Hello, everyone. I think I'm reminded of how much things have changed when we have to watch a movie that has ads in it, because even though we grew up in the era where there were commercials on TV, you couldn't fast forward through them for the most part. I am instantly annoyed when an ad comes up, and especially if it's like ad 4.5 minutes. And I'm like, Jesus. And, you know, that was just standard. I don't know when this transition happened in my life. I don't know. This just annoyed me today. I don't know if Freevee is much more egregious about it than we're used to doing. But it was the first time I wasn't an old man about something. Like I felt like how young kids would react to ads.
I got some bad news for you, Mark.
Yeah.
It's only become more prominent. I believe Prime already created a Prime subscription that is now has ads. Netflix also going the way of the ads. So enjoy it, Mark. And you're only going to get older too, so you're going to be yelling at clouds more often.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm the opposite. I don't mind commercials. It gives me time to get up and do things. I don't care.
When we watch these movies, it actually gives me a moment to catch up on my notes.
Yeah, that's it. Like I can do something like I could talk to my wife, or you know, I was eating while watching this movie.
For Dan, yeah, that's for sure.
It is, yeah. It takes me an eternity to eat, so I don't have to rush and do anything. So
I didn't find the ad lengths here particularly long. Mine were only like a minute. I don't know what's wrong with your TV, Mark.
No idea. I had a couple that were like 3 minutes, 3.5, like 6 ads.
I don't recall the length of mine.
Yeah,
I know some streaming services will get it out of the way in the beginning.
Yeah.
It'll give you like 5 commercials in a row.
Yeah,
but
Peacock does. Peacock does like 5 minutes or something. Sometimes like 3 to 5 minutes of commercials at the beginning, and it's ad free for the rest of the movie.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's like trailers for a movie. Essentially, is how I read that. I think the most egregious thing and funny thing to me, and I really don't know how they pick it for ads, is if you're not subscribed to somebody on Twitch and the ads pop up. One time I saw it was like 1 of 13.
Oh,
and I'm like, Jesus. Yeah, and sometimes it's like 2 ads that are 15 seconds each, and you're right back into it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one time I had one pop up that was like 1 of 13, and I'm like, do the streamers control that? Like, how do they decide who gets the normal 30 seconds to a minute ads and who gets like the 6.5 minute 13 commercials? It's just weird.
I know a guy who despises commercial breaks. So when he watches sporting events, he starts the game late and then like fast forwards through. But by the time he's done, the game is usually over. So if I'm trying to talk to him about the game, he's saying, "Oh, I haven't gotten there yet." But he swears that this is the best way to view a sporting event. What do you guys think about it? Because I'm already done with it by the time he's still, in the third quarter, possibly.
I have a little bit with sporting events of FOMO in that I want to be up to date so that if I'm on Twitter or talking to my friends, they're not spoiling me
Yeah,
on
I'm the
something
same
that's going to
way.
happen. So I have my phone flipped over, screen down, just in case if my stream's like 20 seconds behind you guys. And also some of the apps, that have notifications are ahead of the TVs and streams. Yeah, I learned that the hard way with baseball. But I don't get that. I find it for a sporting event. I see the commercials during that as a time to go to Twitter, go to whatever Blue Sky threads, whatever you're talking, Messenger, and just bullshit with your friends about what you just watched.
Yeah,
And then
just
when the
to kind
game,
of catch up on like the memes that have come out in record time.
yeah, and then the game comes back on, I turn my phone back over. Yeah, I use the commercial breaks to interact with friends more than anything. I think the time it most annoys me ads, I make a joke about this movie with Freebie, which, the movie we watched was actually decent enough that I didn't mind the ads, but it's when we're watching like a really slow, like slog of a movie and you get to a scene and it cuts and it's like 3 minutes of commercial and like, this is just going to add more time to this movie. And I can't fast forward this. Like, that's the absolute worst. I used to be like making fun of my nieces for like, because they would get upset if they couldn't skip an ad on YouTube or something. And now I'm realizing that I am also becoming that person when it comes to, watching TV or movies, and it's a weird how everything is coming full circle again. Like you had just mentioned that, everything is starting to have an ad channel and we're all just going back to cable television again.
Yep. It's fun, isn't it? Capitalism.
It's awesome.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Yay.
But anyway, let's go back to the 90s, why don't we? With this week's movie. This week was my pick, and I decided we haven't watched a Die Hard knockoff in a while. Probably not since Skyscraper. Can't think of any other ones off the top of my head that we've watched.
That was our second movie that we
It was
ever
right
covered.
around the reason for this podcast. The reason this podcast exists is because Dwayne The Rock Johnson's Skyscraper came out.
Yep.
And we wanted to watch Anna Nicole Smith's, or specifically, I wanted to watch Anna Nicole Smith's Skyscraper in conjunction with that. So,
that movie still has one of the greatest lines ever uttered on a movie that we've covered.
Yep.
Is I still believe. Was it? Excuse me if I still believe in babies and walks in the park.
Yeah, something like that. Walks in the park, and little babies.
And little babies. Oh, it's great.
But anyway, this week I picked a Die Hard knockoff that stars, surprisingly to one of us, Corey Haim.
Yeah, Mark. How did you not know that?
And that movie is Demolition High from 1996. Gentlemen, where are you coming from with Demolition High? Let's start with Dan.
Okay, so I was completely thrown off by this movie. When you said Demolition High, I for sure was expecting a trauma movie.
Mm-hmm.
And what I got was a mid-budget movie that it was competently shot for the most part. Definitely a Die Hard knockoff. Like they couldn't, if they took any more from it, they probably get sued for copyright.
Yep.
There's so many parts in this movie where it's cribbed from Die Hard. There's C4 explosives, even down to someone having to go to one of the hostages having to use the bathroom. Like, oh, well, we need to set up something for that. I swear to God, I was paying attention to this movie and I had zero clue that the main character, Leonard, was played by Corey Haim.
You mean Leonard?
Leonard. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm not. I explained off the podcast. I'm not a big Corey Haim fan. I never really got in with the Coreys, so I was just like, this character, this main character, this actor, he's kind of nondescript. I didn't really think anything of him. Meanwhile, he was like one of the biggest stars.
That mostly describes Corey Haim's career after 1990.
Yeah, I was gonna say that he's one of the biggest stars in like the mid to late 80s, early 90s. Like, this guy, like they couldn't find anyone better. I was thinking to myself.
And we've done a Corey Haim movie before.
Blown Away.
Oh, that's right. And that's when he was like a kid having sex with or was he old enough but he was having sex with an underage girl or vice versa?
Well, it was Nicole Eggert getting naked. That's about all.
Right.
Yeah.
But she, in the movie, her character was 17 and he was
15?
I don't think they. No, he would have been older, but they never
Okay.
really said how old he was. So he was like around 19. He was like
Okay.
college age, but like young college.
Yeah.
So I guess regardless, yeah, I remember that movie. I don't remember anything he did in the movie. I don't remember.
Nicole Eggert.
I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I thought this movie was pretty funny. Obviously a direct knockoff, but there was bits and pieces that I found myself really enjoying. The security guard in the beginning, he was one of my favorite characters. Then he gets killed pretty early on, and even after he's dead, he's like catching strays from Corey Haim. he's like that sorry son of a bitch security guard. Like, God damn. That's not nice. Yeah, I thought they had an interesting idea, but they didn't have the budget to pull it off. Right? It's Die Hard set in a high school, but with hardly any high school students in it.
Yeah.
Right? There's maybe 20 kids or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's like, all right, well, yeah, that's terrible if these kids die, but I think it's more effective if you have an entire school full of children. I think the stakes are a little higher. The FBI character even has the line about like losing 30% of the hostages
Mm-hmm.
from Die Hard.
Yep.
Yeah, we figure 25-30% hostage loss. We're okay with that. Holy shit, man! They're like line for line now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed this movie for the most part. It slogged a little bit here and there, but yeah, I think for a Die Hard ripoff, I was happy with it. It towed that line, and I found it enjoyable.
Okay. Mark, what about you? Where you come from? Demolition High.
Yeah, so obviously didn't know anything about it. Knew Corey Haim immediately.
Rub it in, Mark.
One question before I go on myself is this was set in California, correct? Because
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, they keep saying Mayfield, and it's definitely Beverly Hills High. But the representation of a giant Bernie Kosar fan in this movie had me laughing. That's the kid in the 19 Browns jersey for no reason. Like, and they make no mention of it, and I'm just like, this. That's why I was like, is this supposed to be like Ohio? Like,
That's what I thought.
You know, it was so set. I couldn't place it, and that jersey just made it even worse. I really loved in this movie is the fact that Corey Haim might be the worst actor to play someone from the Bronx.
He tried, though. He tried to get the Bronx accent.
Yeah, just one of my favorite parts was the opening fight scene where he dodges a punch and the guy punches the locker, and that's supposed to be some cool Bronx move or something. And he's like, "Whoa!"
Well, the other kid knew karate, and that really never comes into play again.
No, not at all. The entire setup here is literally they tried, we're saying the ripoff of, Die Hard in a school. Even though the movie comes out a little bit later or maybe the same year as this, there were little elements of The Rock in this as well in terms of the nuclear disaster. All the little Home Alone-esque traps that he was setting, much more deadly than the Home Alone traps, obviously, were fun, and seeing him set it up. I had no idea what he was doing with the motor oil until the very last moment. It's like, oh, okay. That apparently this kid is okay with sawing someone's head in half. With like what has he seen?
Oh,
that the way he's killing these people is just like nonchalant to him.
Well, real quick, Mark, that scene, that's like kind of jarring because everything else isn't that gruesome.
Yeah. He sets a man on fire. He saw someone's head in half. Yeah, it was just like that was the only like thing that didn't match up to me. Is like he's supposed to be a high school kid, but he seems like a hardened soldier. In the way he's like fine doing all these things, and he's okay running around with the unloaded gun. He's like, I'll bluff my way through it. I'm like, what have you seen, my dude?
He's from the Bronx. Every day was a fight for his life.
And then just the I had two favorite characters. The one was the other detective with Alan Thicke, and now he just got to do all the dirty work. They're like, you call them, and then you do this, you do that. Warshak or whatever his name was. And then I think the best acting in the movie, when I say best, I say it in quotes, was the guy shutting off and turning on the power at the power plant. I think that guy was amazing. Sure, boss, whatever. And it cuts back. Oh man, okay. Like, and they had that guy for 30 seconds on scene, and that was the best they could get out of him. You know how many shots they had, and then also I love the fact that shutting down a nuclear power grid is the equivalent of just turning off some breakers,
Right.
in an electrical panel box. Not some convoluted computer or anything.
It's a whole process, I'd imagine, right?
Yeah. I would imagine it's at least shutting down, like turning off a turbine or something, but it's not like, yep, I'm just going to flip this breaker and no power in the Southwest Quadrant. We're good. I did enjoy that they had some variety with the deaths of the terrorists. Even though one of them is not physically possible, there's no pressure in a fire extinguisher can to be able to shoot pens enough to penetrate human skin. But I do love that she didn't actually die from that.
Yeah.
Which is good, because they'd have to really penetrate to do that, and they only went through the stomach. So, but I also liked how you couldn't really, like, none of these terrorists outside of the girl and the main guy were any good at being terrorists. Essentially, they all got duped, chasing around the teenagers, and they were easily, taken care of by Corey Haim. They were so incompetent. And it was just like, okay, I guess they have to be a little bit if it's a teenager. But yeah, this entire movie was just, if they had a little bit more budget, I could see it actually being a decent, B action movie. But the limits in budget just made it, not get to its full potential. And I wish they expounded a little more on the, I guess, background of the terrorist a little bit. So yeah, I
agree. Mark, I think, especially with the one point where Corey Haim is like a hardened soldier.
Yeah.
He gets an Uzi at one point, and he's not looking at it like, whoa, how do I work this? It's just, he gets it and immediately blows a terrorist away with it.
Yeah, like immediately. And the sheer fact of him knowing exactly where to be so that the C4 bombs don't kill him at the end. And then one final Die Hard knockoff is kicking the terrorist out the window.
Yeah, it didn't have the same effect, I'll say. I think Die Hard might have done it better.
Yeah, a little more budget to be able to do the slow motion fall.
Yeah, that's all it was, just the budget.
Yeah,
not the actors.
No, anybody can be Alan Rickman. What are you talking about?
It's funny because I couldn't remember Alan Thicke's name. So the first thing that popped into my head was Alan Rickman. It's like, well, no, that's obviously not Alan Rickman. So I asked my wife, I was like, sweetheart, who is this? And she goes, that's Alan Rickman, isn't it? So, no, it's we both have the same brain fart going on here.
You had a lot of trouble with people in this movie, but apparently you knew the oldest actor in the movie.
Dick Van Patten, I knew. I'm like, oh, that's Dick Van Patten.
Not the two people that were probably stars at the time.
Yeah.
Right.
As for me, I enjoyed this. I thought it was a fun little movie, despite the fact that it was a Die Hard knockoff. I thought Corey Haim was decent in it. He's 25 in this movie, though, which is insane. He doesn't look 25, though. He looks like he's a high school kid, so I'll give them that. But he is 25 in this movie.
Of course, with that singular earring.
Yeah,
definitely giving off the vibe.
Maybe that's what threw me. I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I thought the villain, Jeff Kober, I mean, he's not Alan Rickman, but for this movie, he wasn't bad. He was pretty good. He had a decent screen presence. And
I think he portrayed a psycho pretty well.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty good. And, you got your classic secondary villain. This time they went female. Thought that was good. You know, as she's got the same character entrance as Malibu in Skyscraper. I was like, oh, this is our Malibu.
Same kind of hair.
Yeah, the way she just comes out of the back of the van, it's like, oh, that's Malibu.
She had a nice catchphrase and everything too.
Yeah, and I did enjoy, kind of, as Mark mentioned, the Home Alone sort of set pieces, you know, going from different classrooms and kind of setting traps based on those classrooms. I thought that was fun. I thought it was a good use of the gimmick of this movie, of it being Die Hard in a high school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a good time with this. Yeah, it was what I wanted it to be. The one thing is, I still don't quite understand the villain plot. The point.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up.
They have the warhead,
Mm-hmm.
a nuclear warhead, that they are pointing at a power plant. Correct?
A nuclear
Correct.
power plant.
Yes.
Yes.
A nuclear power plant. And they are basically holding it hostage for basically to what they say is to dissolve all bureaucratic parts of the government and give the money back to the people, which is, you know, kind of like Die Hard. It's a bullshit demands. But in passing, Alan Thicke, I almost said Alan Rickman,
Sorry.
realizes, because Rorschach says the town is the home of a federal incinerator, which incinerates money that is now out of circulation. So Alan Thicke puts it together. That's why they're here, is to steal that. There is no attempt to steal that. There's no attempt to break in.
Yeah.
It's just a third place that we never see.
Yeah, I guess we're supposed to take the leap that the reason they have the suits is because they're going to turn this into a nuclear wasteland and just steal all the money, which is going to be, you know, toxic as well. So I don't know where they'd be able to spend the money.
Right. And where is the building that has the money?
No idea. My favorite line from this was Alan Thicke's line, where the guy goes, "But it's all the serial numbers are out of circulation." And Alan Thicke goes, "Who looks at the serial numbers, Rorschach?"
Yeah.
Walks away. I'm like,
I guess in kayfabe, yeah, that makes sense. No one really looks at serial numbers, but
yeah,
somewhere down the line, someone does, I'd imagine.
Yeah, you would imagine at some point it would become a problem, but he's absolutely right. Like, those people could steal that money, go and buy something, you know, where somebody doesn't really check it.
Yeah.
And then get away. It doesn't matter that the serial numbers are out of circulation, but just...
Yeah. If you steal a whole bunch of 20s and 10s, nobody's going to check those.
Yeah,
Yep.
Exactly.
But to your point of what the leap you're making, Mark, does not account for sending a warhead into a nuclear power plant and the destruction that would cause.
Right.
Yeah, they haven't thought it all the way through.
They're not surviving that explosion, which
even
is
with those suits
supposedly
on.
100 miles worth of fallout.
Yeah.
Right. Alan Thicke even says, if that goes up, it's going to make Chernobyl look like a little campfire or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, basically, it's small peanuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even think that incinerator, I don't know where it is in the town, because
Mhm.
again, we never see it. We don't even see anybody that is associated with it.
Yeah.
That thing's that might not even be standing by the end of this plan.
So my question for you guys, because Ant, I'm so happy you brought it up. If you're threatening the power plant, why not hold up in the power plant?
I mean, there was a chase. There was a car chase, right?
Right.
So their plan wasn't necessarily to hold up the school, but that's where they are at.
That's just where they wound up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Not to say that they couldn't head that way instead when they were caught, but
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because holding up a high school, that's so far off base for a evil genius's plan, I think.
Yeah. This wasn't where they want. That is the one thing different in this and Die Hard, is that they weren't planning to wind up at a high school.
Yeah, that's true.
They just made do.
And it's not as I like the premise, but it's not as hard hitting when you're in a high school for some reason. It's too wide open. I think I never felt that claustrophobia that was in Die Hard, or where John McClane is in the air ducts, or he's in the elevator shaft. Here it's just wide hallways and random rooms. I just never felt that. And he's not even Corey Haim's not even by himself for 3/4 of the movie, really.
Mm-hmm.
He's with the bully and his girlfriend.
Yeah. Demolition High. It's from 1996, directed by Jim Wynorski. This is actually our 4th Jim Wynorski movie we've covered. The past
Chopping
3:
Mall, right?
Chopping Mall, Munchie, and Sins of Desire.
Ooh.
So stars Corey Haim, Alan Thicke, Dick Van Patten, Jeff Kober, Melissa Brazel, Kimberly Roberts, Trey Alexander, Richard Stiles, Garrett Graham, Stacey Randall, and John Henry Richardson. IMDb score of 4.5. And Rotten Tomatoes, no critics, but a 35% audience score. And no budget or box office. You guys want to get into the plot?
Let's do it.
All right. Dan, what you got for us?
Just real quick, guys, please go check out 2 friends of the podcast. First up, we've talked about her every week. So if you haven't done it by now, I implore you, please do so. It's the Top 10 with Tia. It's Tia, who we've had on this podcast before, and her co-host, Brittany, running down their top 10 lists of the week. It's at geekvibesnation.com. So please go over there, give them a follow, check them out. They are awesome. And last but not least, our very own Mark Myers and our good friends Tom and Jen have a video game podcast called the Game Vault Podcast. It's a bi-weekly podcast that is on all podcast platforms that you would like. And they also stream on Twitch over at Game Vault Pod, where they talk about their favorite games that are coming up that you should be paying attention to, big video game news around the industry that may affect things down the line. And they also talk about old school games, what they cover with their Retro Roulette Game of the Week. So Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation, Xbox, they play it all. It's a lot of fun. So please go follow them on Twitch and go follow them on all their socials at Game Vault Pod.
Okay, great. And we're going to take a quick break, and you guys are going to listen to messages from friends of the podcast. So we will be right back.
Hey, this is Ken M.
I'm Padawan J.
from the ODPH podcast.
Each week, we talk a parlay of topics.
That's right. Whether it's sports, pro wrestling, movies, TV, comics, and more, we've got a take on it.
And don't forget, odphpodcast.com for links for Patreon, TeePublic, and the Parlay Points blogs, and much more.
Thanks for listening to the ODPH podcast. Now back to your regularly scheduled show.
You know I don't know I was so damn hard to say.
Welcome, travelers. Seems like you're looking for a story. Well, I got one for you. It involves adventure, friendship, and all sorts of...
Earl, why don't you tell him about that time I stole that big-ass melon?
Yeah, I was going for more
Or you
epic.
could tell him about the time I kicked her ass, Earl.
I wouldn't ever tell him.
Do I need to get my ref gear on?
Okay, everyone, shut up. Now come with me as I tell you a story from afar. Hey everybody, my name's David. I'm the DM for From Afar Podcast. From Afar Podcast is all about 4 friends separated by distance but brought together by adventure. Hope you all stop by and give us a listen. Thanks.
And welcome back. And now it's time to get into the plot for Demolition High. We open on George Buck Flower stretching his acting wings by playing an old security guard as opposed to an old homeless man. He walks out of his...
Oh, that's right. He's from Back to the Future.
He is, yes. He walks out of his security checkpoint to receive a truck, and out hops a sexy brunette in all leather looking for a power plant, which he happens to be 300 miles off course. So the good guy he is, Buck shows her where to go, and for his troubles, she shoots him right in the chest.
With probably the coolest gun in the movie.
Yeah.
Pretty sick. Then suddenly a bunch of armed guys hop out of the back of the van. They make their way into this unnamed facility, shoot a couple of other security guards, and make off with what appears to be some sort of government weapon in a large box. As they make their way out in the truck, Jeff Kober, playing a guy named Luther, hits a remote, which sets off an explosive he left at the facility, blowing it up.
It's completely unnecessary at that point, to be honest.
Yeah, cover your tracks, man.
Yeah, but it also makes noise.
Yeah, I don't really think it does the job of covering their tracks because they get found out pretty quickly.
Credits roll with some great guitar riffs over the flames.
Oh, yeah.
We then hard cut to a school as some kids walk to their classes, including Corey Haim, all dressed in his 90s plaid and his bowl cut.
And his singular earring.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a hoop earring, too.
Either of you guys have a 90s earring?
I did not.
No.
I did the blonde hair 90s thing.
0 for 3. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't really partake in any. I had Jenko jeans. That was my 90s.
Nice fat pair of Jenkos.
I did. I think I wore them like 5 times.
Did you have a chain wallet?
Oh, I did.
Oh, no, I didn't.
I see each of us had a different 90s thing.
I had a fat pair of Jenkos. I had a chain wallet, spiky hair.
I had the spiky hair. That's I think that was the only thing I had.
Then a few bullies come up on Haim to hassle him for being the new kid and also being named Lenny. They really dig the screws in for the fact that his name is Lenny.
Yeah.
Leonard. I'm going to use that in public now. It's now going to live on the same level as AA Ron with me.
Well, they call him Lenny the Lesbo.
Yes, they do.
The nicknames are terrible.
Yeah.
They got it in one. They didn't need to go to the extra nicknames.
I would agree with that. Yeah, you got him the first time.
Yeah.
Sort of.
They exchange them back and forth, measuring their dicks, then start to fight. Lenny ducks under a few haymakers from the bully, one of which hits the other bully square in the face, which I found hilarious. Lenny gets some kicks in before the fight is broken up by a security guard. Meanwhile, 2 cops are talking about the hit on the warehouse, and the chief told them that they should be on the lookout for a big white van. They laugh about the idea of the van making its way through their town, and then immediately it does, taking a turn hard right in front of them, and they get chase. Back at the school, the cheerleading squad is at practice while a few guys, including the bully Eddie, shoot around on the basketball court. When the cheerleader smiles and waves at Eddie, and then his bully friends point out that Lenny is taking some shots on the court outside.
Which looks like a prison yard.
It does. Back at the police chase, the cops continue to chase the van. Jeff Cobra tells the sexy brunette to pull over and get rid of the cops. So when the cops get out to talk to the driver, she shoots him in the chest and drives off. The other cop calls for backup and drives after, leaving his partner in the middle of the street dying.
That I laughed so hard.
I'm sorry, I had that written there. Do cops usually leave their dying partners in the middle of the street?
and the fact that he's calling it in before he starts the car to give chase.
Yeah. Well, when the cop gets back in, I figured, he's just going to radio for help. And he does, but then he drives off. It's like, that's not, that can't be how they do things.
As soon as he said the word, I'm in pursuit, and the car is not on, I was like, you've just given him a 5-minute head start.
Yeah. I forgot he does say that.
Back at the school, Eddie and his friends are in the locker room and climb up the lockers to look over to the other side where the girls' locker room is. And Stacy and her cheerleader friends talk while in towels. I can't imagine if this is the setup of the boys and girls locker room that these are the first guys to have done this.
No way.
And that the girls wouldn't know about it.
This is poor design.
Yeah, because I thought it was going to be like a Porky situation where there's a hole in the wall.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's just there's just lockers you could easily look over.
Yeah. In my school, they couldn't be further apart. The boys' locker room and the girls' locker room.
Yeah, they were. I think in my high school they were on separate ends of the gym.
Yeah,
they didn't exist in my high school.
Really?
Oh, that's right.
Wait, I went to an all-boys school.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. I was gonna say, did the women not just have anywhere to change? Yeah, you got to change out in the hallway.
No, they were icky women.
College was the first time Mark ever saw a woman.
Get out of town.
Yeah,
we didn't even have cheerleaders.
Did you know women existed, Mark?
Did not know.
He spent an entire month with the drapes closed because he was just in shock.
Yeah,
that's why he was on academic probation.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Professor. What is that over there?
What is that growing out of her chest?
It's it's like the opposite of Wonder Woman when Chris Pine washes up on shore. Like, ooh, what is this thing?
Yeah.
After any of his friends leave, Lenny climbs up to the lockers for a peek, but then gets caught by one of the girls, and the security guard catches him and pulls him out by the ear. Meanwhile, the car chase continues, and Lenny gets put in front of the principal. Principal starts reading him the riot act, telling him the old cliche thing about how stuff like that may fly in the Bronx, but not here. And the principal gives Lenny 4 weeks of detention.
he does the Breakfast Club
Yeah.
argument. You just got yourself 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But it's 4 now.
Then there's a commotion in the yard when the van comes to screeching tires and all right into the school parking lot with the cops behind them. Principal orders the security guard outside, then leaves Lenny in the office to go investigate on his own. Lenny goes right to the window and starts watching as the group of gunmen open fire on the cops, eventually killing the cop and then blowing up the cruiser with a surface-to-air missile, then guns down the security guard.
The security guard was my favorite part.
Stand fucking chance, man.
he walks outside, hey, you freeze, and they just blow him away.
The sexy brunette even takes a shot at Lenny as she sees him looking through the window. Principal meets the gunman in the hallway as they begin moving their operation into the building, immediately gets taken hostage as they move the big case inside. And Cobra brings the principal back to his office after Lenny sneaks out of the office. And at gunpoint, the principal tells all the remaining staff and students in the assembly hall. When he's done, Cobra tells the principal to tell the cops to keep distance or he's going to start executing people. The students and staff start moving to the assembly hall, but Eddie and Stacy stay behind in the gym so they can make out. Cops get the call and Alan Thicke answers, and he tells the other cops that the terrorists aren't giving out demands until the feds get there. Back to school, Lenny tries to talk to the bullies, telling them not to go to the assembly hall, but they don't listen to him and go with the other students.
Yeah, I love how like unconvincing the bullies are about ignoring. Like, no, man, we're gonna listen to the principal.
Yeah. Once everyone is in the assembly hall, it becomes clear that something isn't right. Then Jeff Cobra shoots into the air, which seemed extra, seeing as how everyone had already given him their attention. But he says that they're basically be the keepers of their fate and how they come out of this as long as they cooperate. He then orders his men to search the halls for any stragglers.
This is one of the first parts where you kind of get the Die Hard ripoff, right? When Luther basically says, like, you could either you can walk out on your own or in a body bag, essentially. Like, oh, you can. And he even is like, you are here to bear witness to history. Like, and you could either experience it in person or face down in a pool of your own blood. It's like, it's basically Hans Gruber.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Lenny makes it to a bank of payphones in the hall, but doesn't have enough change to make the call because he spent his money on extra milk that day.
Did somebody not know about 1-800-COLLECT?
Yeah, I guess not.
That would have been a pretty cool collect phone call to his dad. Like, what was the commercial? Like, had a baby, it's a boy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like high school taken over by hostages. Do you accept?
Stacy and Eddie, meanwhile, are still in the gym making out when they hear sirens. Cops show up and Alan Thicke, chief of police, immediately gets hounded by reporters asking about the robbery at the warehouse and if it's connected, and his record as a police officer, including his past on the World Trade Center bombing case.
Holy shit, I didn't hear that part.
Lenny makes it to the gym to find Eddie, Stacy, and the reflection of the boom mic in the wood of the bleachers.
Glad you saw that too.
So distracting. Lenny tries to convince Eddie and Stacy to leave, but Eddie can't help but talk about how he wants to beat up Lenny, although Lenny does take the time here to completely exonerate himself for peeping on Stacy in the shower.
Yeah.
But eventually Lenny is able to get out of the fact that the terrorists have taken over the school, but Eddie still won't believe him until he shows him proof.
Yeah, my favorite part is, sure, let's go outside. I'll let you kick my ass. Just
Yeah.
let's get outside.
Well, that's reminiscent of John McClane talking to the dispatch. Come down here and arrest me.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Alan Thicke starts setting up the SWAT team around the schoolyard. Cobra's men make it back to the assembly room to confirm there are no stragglers. One of the bullies says he has to go to the bathroom, so Cobra tells him he could go in the corner. They bring in a custodian as the last straggler, and Cobra tells his man Boomer to go into phase 2. So Boomer and the other guys
that would
bring
be
out
great. Sorry, that'd be great at one point if he says "Okay, Boomer" to him. I don't think he ever does.
So Boomer and the other guys bring out the chest into the hallway and open it up to reveal what looks like a warhead, as Lenny, Eddie, and Stacy look on from a stairwell. They head to the principal's office where Lenny says there's a gun. What?
Oh, I had that in my notes because the principal shows Lenny a gun that he confiscated. And I had written down, why does the principal still have the gun?
The person's been in jail because he mentions that the person goes to jail. I thought it was going to end up being a cigarette lighter.
Oh, that would have been clever. Yeah. And but Lenny doesn't know the difference, so when he goes to blow away one of the hostages, it's just the lighter.
Yeah,
Oh, that would have been clever.
this whole scene with the gun and later the butterfly knife just adds to the thing about, like, does he have some kind of training? Like, cop training? Like, he pulls the gun out, like, knows exactly what to, it's empty.
Well,
Like,
he's the son of a cop.
That's
it's
true.
not a bit of a stretch to the cop, your father, to be like, all right, I'm going to teach you gun safety. This is how you handle a gun.
Maybe that's what
I'll
it
give you
was.
that. Yes.
Yeah. That would have been a nice line to put in there, though. Like, the Alan Thicke tells his son, like, hey, remember what I showed you? Use that training, kind of thing, you know?
Like the skyscraper scenes where we see Anna Nicole Smith being taught how to shoot a gun and then fucking her boyfriend.
You're right. So is that what you're saying is missing from here? Corey Haim fucking someone?
I mean, it could have just been he could have been reminiscing about watching Skyscraper.
Oh, that'd been hilarious. Alan Thicke telling Corey Haim, remember that movie, son. Remember what she did. Remember what Anna Nicole Smith did. And it's just him remembering her getting naked.
Yeah. But when they get there, the PA mic on the principal's desk is still on, so everyone in the school hears them in the office. Cobra goes to get them, but the principal tries to tackle him and take his gun, but the sexy brunette shoots the principal right in the back. Lenny, Eddie, and Stacy leave the principal's office with the gun, and Cobra investigates just in time to pick up the phone as a police call. Dick introduces the FBI agents leading the team. Cobra tells the female FBI agent to get their men out of the school, thinking the noise in the office was an agent, but the FBI and the cops swear to him that they don't have anyone in the building.
And he seems to believe it.
Yep. They ask for Cobra's demands, and he tells them that he wants the American government to dissolve all their bureaucratic agencies and then to turn over all government assets to the American taxpayer. Kind of on his side on this one.
I wouldn't mind that.
It sees the means of production, right, Ed?
Yeah, right. I'm okay with an anarcho-socialist. Cobra talks with Boomer, who is trying to crack the code on the warhead. Boomer says it might take 2 to 3 hours, so Cobra tells him he has 2. Meanwhile, Eddie and Stacy are ready to just leave the school. Lenny realizes the gun he got from the principal's office is empty, but he convinces Eddie and Stacy to stay and help him.
Oh, that's another Die Hard reference. The guy who has to crack the code.
Yep. Yeah. So the 3 of them start sneaking around as the terrorists start sweeping the hallways. They make it to the science lab, and Lenny tells them to turn on all the gas lines. Outside, the FBI is setting up their plans, which is accounting for 30 to 38% casualties. Alan Thicke tells the FBI to plan with their heart, not their badge, and try and find a way to get everyone out.
Is this the point where he just brings up all the FBI failures of the 90s?
Not yet. Okay. Not yet. Ruby Ridge and Waco.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One of the gunmen makes his way into the science lab with a gas, and Lenny throws a lit cigarette in it, and the gas explodes, and we get a pretty good burn suit scene as the guy comes out in the hallway on fire, and the explosion blows out the windows.
I thought what was funny in this scene is Corey Haim, he asks for a cigarette, and he lights the cigarette and takes a couple puffs. I don't know if that was necessary. You could have just lit it and threw it.
That was real Corey Haim just needing a smoke break.
He just needed a smoke break. That's improvising.
Yeah. Meanwhile, one of the detectives called the head of the power plant to turn off the power on the entire quadrant the high school is on. After an odd scene of back and forth between the head of the power plant, his secretary, his wife, and the detective, the head of the power plant calls and tells his man to turn off the quadrant power. The detective then gets accosted by a reporter, and he tells her he can't divulge too much information, especially about the chief's son being in the school, because it might put him in danger. Terrorists continue with their plan, setting up the warhead pointed at a window. Feds and Cobra talk on the phone, and he says that the explosion stunt, which he thinks that they just did, just cost them a hostage. So Cobra goes back into the assembly hall and tells Eddie's 2 friends to get up and start moving. Meanwhile, Lenny, Eddie, and Stacy look on from the side of the stage. SWAT team starts to move into position. They see some movement on the second floor. They plan to fire, but Alan Thicke tells them to hold their fire, and it winds up that they toss the principal's body out the window.
I got a good laugh out of that dummy.
Yeah, such a great use of a dummy.
They just unceremoniously toss him out, wide shot.
That might be the second best use of a dummy in our podcast. The first goes to was that Surf Nazis or whatever, where they throw that dummy down and it bounces off the walls.
No, that's that's the Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, that's
movie.
the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Oh, okay. What was Cyborg or something like that?
Yeah, it was one like they throw him down like
Yeah.
a rusted out building, and the dummy just hits like both sides of the wall.
Just bounces off. And they don't even go to check who it was that gets thrown out of the window. They
Fuck.
They just dump the body. Like, oh, all right, that's it.
Lenny then gets called out to his dad to tell him what's going on, like the number of hostages, number of terrorists, the warhead, etc. Then they have to hang up as the terrorist starts closing in. Cobra, meanwhile, is walking with Eddie's friends and pistol whips one of them for using the water fountain. Tells the two men to keep looking for the troublemaker. Lenny, Stacy, and Eddie then head to shop class. Meanwhile, Alec calls up Dick Van Patten, who's a general, asking about any missing missiles or bombs. General tries to say the information is classified, but Alec starts telling him the situation and that whatever he's missing is pointed at a nuclear power plant. Back in the assembly room, Sexy Brunette and Cobra start talking about how they're going to be rich soon and they might even get more if they tie up some loose ends. And they start flirting and he grabs her by the boob.
That was such a pre-Me Too time frame, because that was definitely not in the script.
Well, this is Jim Wynorski, who has done such films as Busty Cops and Witches of Brestwick, so it might entirely have been
in the script. Okay.
In the script.
So you're saying he's not exactly PC?
No.
Yeah.
Point and
we every time we do a Jim Wynorski movie, I like to remind everybody that he did a lot of Skinamax movies in like the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
The ones you know, he did it.
The big time ones.
Yeah. Witches of Brestwick. I think Ghost in a Teeny Bikini. All the good ones.
Just one hit after the other.
The Hills Have Thighs.
The Hills Have
Cinema.
Yeah. That's what Marty Scorsese was talking about.
Yes.
He was talking about Wynorski.
Yep. Then we cut to Lenny, Stacy, and Eddie in the shop class pouring motor oil on the floor. Then Lenny turns on a power saw on the ground to attract one of the gunmen. Gunman comes running, slips on the slick floor, and then slides headfirst into the power saw. Blood flying everywhere.
Oh, what a tonal shift.
There are two main tonal shifts in this, and this is the first one.
Yeah, just that when I saw that, I'm like, ooh, that doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm. Lenny then picks up the gun and he dropped and shoots the next gunman that comes in after him. It is jarring to watch a high school kid just mow down people with a machine gun. But
yeah,
I guess that is actually our society, so it actually makes perfect sense.
And it is California.
Yep. Lenny then sticks his head out of the shop class and sees that another gunman and Cobra have found Stacy and Eddie. Cobra then sees Lenny and shoots at him, and then follows him into the shop class, looks for him, but then leaves and heads back to the assembly room. On the way back, they cut the power to the school. So Cobra brings Stacy to the principal's office and calls the police to tell them to put the lights back on or he's going to start punishing students.
My favorite part of this scene is when they first call to tell him to shut the power off. The guy's first thing is he just wants to know if his daughters are in school. Like, not even like he's like totally in with the cops, from that point forward, but just has to make sure his daughters are home. Like, what? He's like, we need the power cut now. Wait, hold on. Got my wife. Come on. I got her home. Okay, good. Yes, we'll shut the power off for you. It was just such an odd way they scripted and acted that, like that he was talking through the secretary.
Mm-hmm. So right after they turn off the power, they have to turn it right back on. Back in the assembly room, Cobra tells his men to go back and look for Lenny, but the sexy brunette then starts threatening Eddie with her gun, and he immediately blurts out Lenny's full name. So now Cobra knows that he's the police chief's son and tells his man to bring him back alive.
I like in that scene where the bully gives Luther the Leonard's name, and the girlfriend chastises the bully. Like, she gives him this look like, how could you? Hey, come on, he's a kid.
How dare you?
Yeah, like he doesn't want to get his head blown off.
Snitches get stitches.
Right. She abides by prison rules.
Lenny comes across Boomer working on the codes and points a gun at him. But then the brunette comes in and points a gun at Lenny. Lenny takes Boomer hostage and tells the brunette that he'll shoot him. So the brunette convinces Boomer to throw her the detonator, which he does, and she immediately shoots Boomer. So she takes Lenny hostage to bring back to the assembly room. But he breaks his one rule about hitting girls and punches her in the stomach and runs. And the brunette calls into Cobra on the walkie and tells him that she has him cornered in a stairwell. Cobra sends one of the other guys out to help her. Then Cobra tells Stacy that she and Lenny would be such a cute couple, dying in each other's arms. So she tells him the only ones dying is going to be him and his demented slut. So he slaps her. Eddie goes to stop him, but then Cobra shoots Eddie right in the stomach. Sexy Brunette searches the hallway some more, and Lenny makes his way into the classroom where he finds a bunch of matches, a switchblade, and a working phone. Outside, the general shows up and he says that the only evidence they have is speculation, and he can't order an evacuation with no confirmed information. Lenny gets a call out to his dad, and he tells him about the detonators. So his dad tells him that it's basically up to him to save the world and to get the detonators from the terrorists. Lenny goes off to do the impossible. Meanwhile, Sexy Brunette and Mustache Terrorist nearly shoot each other in the hallway as they bump into each other. Lenny sees them and hides out, staying one step ahead of them as they continue to check the rooms. Back in the auditorium, Cobra unveils some radiation suits. As that is happening, Mustache Terrorist goes into the chemistry lab, gets some acid thrown in his face by Lenny, and then gets into a tussle with him. Sexy Brunette comes in and shoots Mustache Terrorist in the back. Lenny throws him into her, causing her to fall, allowing Lenny to get away with Mustache Terrorist's gun.
Did you notice, guys, in that scene where the sexy terrorist shoots the mustache terrorist, there's more squibs than gunshots?
No, I didn't.
She shoots him 3 times, but there's 5 squibs. So I assuming the person who is in charge of the detonations got a little like punch drunk, or they just didn't time it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. At this point, Corey Haim's character hasn't realized that this woman doesn't care about her fellow terrorists. He keeps trying to use them as a way to hide from her, thinking she won't shoot them.
Well, she mentions to Luther that she's not opposed to taking some extra shares of the money.
Yeah, but he's already seen her shoot Boomer, without a second thought, and he seems surprised again when it happens in the science room.
Well, it's one of those things it happened to him. It certainly can't happen to me.
Yeah.
Lenny runs and hides in the art room as the Sexy Brunette pursues and immediately realizes which room he's in. Lenny fills his fire extinguisher hose with a bunch of sharp calligraphy pens. When she comes out, he shoots it at her. Calligraphy pens get shot out and hit her in the chest. She falls to the ground and grabs the detonator and runs.
The way she falls is like a Bethesda video game character dying. She kind of just slumps to the ground with her legs positioned behind her.
Mm-hmm.
It's like ragdoll physics.
Yeah, she's very flexible.
Maybe that's what she wanted to show off. Look how flexible I am when I die.
Outside, Alan Thicke talks to the other detective, Rorschach. Rorschach mentions that the townhouse is a federal incinerator that burns money that has been taken out of circulation. So Alan Thicke realizes that the plan the whole time was to break into the incinerator and steal the money, which makes sense from a plan standpoint, but it's unclear how they plan to get from where they are right now to the incinerator.
We don't even know where it is.
Nope, not at all. Lenny makes it to the assembly room to find it empty except for Eddie, who is bleeding out on the floor. Eddie tells Lenny that everyone's been brought up to the roof, so Lenny grabs a radiation suit and tells Eddie to stay put. Outside, the cops watch as hostages and terrorists show up on the roof, terrorists wearing radiation suits. As the feds are about to give the go to shoot the terrorists, Alan Thicke stops them, saying his son said that there are fewer terrorists alive than what's on the roof. This is the Ruby Ridge and Waco moment.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they realize they've dressed up hostages as potential terrorists.
I feel like that's been done in another movie.
Yeah, trying to think.
They do it in The Dark Knight.
Yes,
but I don't think that's the movie you're thinking of.
No, The Inside Job or Inside Man with Clive Owen.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I love how they're so readily available to believe that the son knows the amount of terrorists in the high school. Like Leonard said there was 3 and there's 5 people in suits.
Right.
It'd be great if one of the character flaws of Lenny was that he failed math in the Bronx.
Yeah.
So he can't count.
And his dad has to parse the information that Lenny is giving to him. He says there's 13, but he failed math, so there could be more.
Yeah. It is different because in Die Hard, Al Powell's the one that's taking him at face value.
Yes.
John McClane, and Powell doesn't have any authority, right?
Right.
He's right on every account, but the principal from
Demolition High. From Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Is kind of just whatever, pal.
Mm-hmm.
Basically.
Yeah. there's none of that here, really.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of listens to each other and helps each other out on the police and the FBI.
Yeah.
And so that you don't have those butting heads.
Mm-hmm. The group on the roof sets up the warhead and then go back inside. So now the general can't deny that there is, in fact, a warhead in play here. Warshak gets on the phone with the power plant head and tells him the terrorists have a warhead aimed at the reactor. Tells him to shut down the reactor, but the power plant head basically says it's too late. It would take about a day. So he tells his secretary to sound the alarm and go home. And this is the second tonal shift in this movie when it becomes a disaster film.
Yeah, that's so weird. Because the first part of the movie, what I was confused was when Lenny gets picked on, and was it Marty is the bully?
Eddie
knows karate, so I thought this was going to be a movie that heavily features karate.
Mm-hmm.
And then we find out it's a Die Hard ripoff, and then it's a disaster movie at the end.
Yeah. Cobra starts marching the kids and teachers back down and off the roof and into one of the classrooms, lines them all up, but Lenny is also there. Cobra sets a countdown on the computer, and then Lenny reveals that he has the detonator and the gun, but Cobra tells him that if he presses the self-destruct button on the detonator, it also sets off the explosives placed around the school. Cobra dares Lenny to call his bluff by pointing his own gun at Stacy. Lenny gives up the gun and places the detonator on the floor. Cobra goes to pick it up. Lenny jumps him and starts kicking the shit out of him. This is why you always say, slide it over to me.
Yes.
And everyone runs except Stacy, and as Lenny and Cobra fight, Cobra gets in some good hits, but eventually Lenny winds up kicking Cobra out a window and onto a parked car.
He has a good line after it, too.
What was the line?
School's out.
That's a good line. It's obvious, but it's a good line.
Yeah. Sometimes the most obvious ones are the good ones.
Yeah. Lenny tells Stacy to go get Eddie as he goes to the roof. As he goes to the roof, they try to disarm the warhead. I don't know what he's planning. One of the snipers gets the okay to shoot him by Alan Thicke, so he does and chases Lenny back down the stairs. When he makes it to the second floor, a sexy brunette swings at him with a fire axe. She gets shot by the same sniper through the window she's standing by. When he goes down the stairs, gets met with the SWAT team coming in, shows them the bombs planted, and they all evacuate. Countdown hits 0 and the warhead shoots off. Lenny goes in and helps Stacy evacuate Eddie. He hides them in the white van from the beginning of the movie, and tells them to close the doors. Then he goes over to Cobra's dead body and presses the self-destruct button way too close to the building that has all the bombs in it.
And
sure
also,
enough,
sorry to interrupt, the van's not going to shield you really from the explosion.
The absolute leveling of this high school, no one is safe from the blast radius.
No, they're far too close.
Everybody's like 40 feet away.
Yeah. Well within blast radius.
Yeah.
It does lead to a good line where he says he's taking the girl to prom, and Alan Thicke goes, well, I guess it's going to be an outdoor one.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Nobody standing 50 feet away gets blown back, and the white van is unharmed. It's like it's a bulletproof van.
It's like
a panic room.
It was a Fallout van.
It's like the nuclear fridge from Indiana Jones or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. It can withstand a 3 megaton blast. No more, no less.
Stacy comes out and the paramedics attend to Eddie. Then Lenny and Stacy come over to Alan Thicke, and Lenny introduces her to Alan Thicke and says they're going to go to prom together. And Alan Thicke just says, kids. And that is the end of Demolition High. It was actually a lot of fun. I enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, same here.
I agree. It's campy. It knows exactly what it's ripping off. It plays heavily into it. Yeah, I would say this is definitely the best Die Hard ripoff I've seen.
All right. Yeah, I enjoyed it. And that's Demolition High. And we got a third segment come up, and you guys are going to listen to some ads, so pay those bills, and we'll be right back. And welcome back, and now it's time to get into our third segment. And this week, seeing as how we have a Die Hard knockoff, we're going to talk about Die Hard knockoffs, and we're going to create some. So I told these guys to come to the table with a cast list of their own Die Hard knockoffs. So we're going to go through them. And seeing as how Dan is late this week, he still needs some time to work on his. We're going to write to Mark.
Yeah.
So Mark, why don't you talk us through your Die Hard? Doesn't have to be too much, but I don't have like a title for mine yet, but maybe I'll get there once. But I told you basically a synopsis, but it doesn't have to be like formal. But do have to finish it's Die Hard, but blank protagonist, villain, love interest, and sidekick, and a tagline. Not tagline, but a one-liner if you got them. So
I'm gonna get your opinion on this. With how it would work. I have Die Hard. I have Die Hard, but in a mall. But I don't know if nowadays would be a recently abandoned mall. Would be.
This is your movie.
Yeah. Let's just do in a mall because you need hostages.
Sure. So Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Exactly. So Paul Blart Mall Cop. Damn, I changed my villain then. No. In this movie, title might be my weakest thing. I thought of it because of a food court. We could call it Food Fight or something to that extent. Originally, yeah. And so I went a little different than most of these Die Hard ripoffs. I did a gender swap with the protagonist. I'm going protagonist Jenna Ortega.
Okay, she's in everything.
Yeah. The villain. I was trying to go between like should it be somebody that's like a really good actor or should I go popular like this? So for some reason I decided on I landed on Michael Shannon as the terrorist person taking over the mall, the leader. Sure. Basically from his what Bullet Train or whatever that movie was. Just I was thinking of his character from that movie. The love interest, just sticking because I don't really know many young actors and I didn't want to make this a Nick Cage, situation. So love interest is Timothy Chalamet in this movie. And the sidekick was the one I thought about the most. The sidekick in this movie, I have Kate McKinnon. And she's like the older person that works with Jenna Ortega. That is just, basically the comic relief as most sidekicks can be. But it's just, I love the idea of the age difference of that person that has like worked in the mall way too long and really shouldn't be working in the mall anymore. Being the one tagging along with much more capable, younger Jenna Ortega here. And just a simple thing with the line. I was trying to rack my brain to come up with something cool and cute, but I think you just got to go simple. So as he kicks him out of the mall, he just goes mall closed.
Pretty good.
Is that who says that? Jenna Ortega or
Jenna Ortega? Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, gotcha. As sort of like the no ticket from Indiana Jones sort of idea. And basically the idea is they are. My thought was they're trying to smuggle something in like tunnels below the mall, and they're like take people hostages while they're trying to find said tunnel.
Okay.
So
I like it. I like it. Nice.
Good job, Mark.
And obviously with malls, it leads you to all those Home Alone type situations, going through the different types of stores that would be in the classic mall.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Good job.
Anything with a mall, I enjoy.
Yep.
Yeah. Dan, what about you? Are you ready yet?
I am ready. I got to figure it out.
Okay.
So dumb. But all right. So the title of this Die Hard knockoff is called Country Tough.
Okay.
It's Die Hard, but on a farm.
All right.
The villain is Austin Butler.
Okay.
The hero is Will Poultier.
Sure.
Love interest Karen Gillian.
Okay.
The sidekick Daniel Kaluuya.
Sure.
Okay.
The final death quip, or should I do the plot synopsis first and then the death quip? All right.
Yeah.
So the plot synopsis is Austin Butler shows up to a family farm saying he's a rancher, but he's secretly trying to buy all the farmland and frack it. Will Poultier must save his family's ranch using his country know-how to stop Butler from achieving his evil goals.
Sure.
The final death quip is, I guess he did buy the farm after all. And
I dig it.
That's Country Tough.
That's good.
I love that title more and more.
Yeah, I was struggling. I was like, all right, it's got to be something country. I was like, all right, well, country tough sounds good.
It's kind of got a little bit of the Guest vibes to it.
Ooh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest, Dan. I was liking it, but not fully in love with it until you gave me the synopsis of the movie.
Yes. So I had it. I was like, all right, well, I was going to go for like a Bill Gates type of thing. Like, oh, he's buying up all the farmland for like nefarious purposes. Like, but like, who would really do that now? Like, it's all about fracking. So,
yeah.
And I figure he captures Karen Gillian and he's holding her hostage, blah, blah, blah. Or, I mean, it could also be vice versa. Karen Gillian is also a badass. So, you could swap those roles with Will Poulter and Karen Gillian, but keeping it strictly as a die-hard knockoff.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it goes. And Daniel Kaluuya is the town sheriff.
Nice.
Who's trying to help Will Poulter essentially navigate all the areas in the forest and all that, or the woods and all that.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
As for me, so I don't have a title, but
maybe we could workshop it.
Yeah, let's go through it. All right, so it's Die Hard, but at the Playboy Mansion.
Okay.
And my protagonist is Miss October, played by Samara Weaving.
Okay, I like that.
The villain, I wanted to go for someone. I wanted a European villain, so I went in with Daniel Bruhl.
Ooh, okay, nice.
I went with the love interest as like a very skittish caterer, Joe Keery from Stranger Things.
I almost put him as my hero.
And her sidekick is the Al Powell type sidekick, and it's her dad, the chief of police, played by Carl Urban.
Ooh, Carl Urban. I love Carl Urban.
Okay, so basically, it's a party at the Playboy Mansion, and shit goes down for terrorists. I also added an iconic second in command villain.
Ooh,
and hot off of his performance at the Royal Rumble, I went with Braun Breaker.
Interesting. Okay,
he seems like perfect.
Yeah,
Playboy Mansion.
So yeah, because like Alexander Godunov and Malibu and Sexy Brunette in this one, figured we needed a second in command. So I wanted to. It felt like a good wrestler casting, like a Dave Bautista, but I didn't want to go too obvious with Dave Bautista.
Yeah, and my intimidating.
Yeah, and my tagline or my one liner is Playboy, more like Die Boy.
And that would be great. Come out of the Samara Weaving.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. I like that tagline.
You know what? My title is "It's Die Hard, but at the Playboy Mansion."
Yeah, that's good. I was gonna say like something like Bunny, something with the bunny.
Yeah, I was trying to think something like that too.
Yeah, like Deadly Bunny or Bunny on the Run. Now
Run Rabbit Run.
Run Rabbit Run. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Run Rabbit Run's pretty good. Yeah. So a couple of my villain casting for some reason. First name popped in my head was I was originally going to do Bradley Cooper.
Okay.
But I was like, that's like putting too many like popular like A-list actors into this movie. And then I also was trying to find a way to incorporate Renee Rapp into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, no, then we're getting, I felt it felt a little pandering to have both Jenna Ortega and Renee Rapp.
Sure.
Into this. And then sidekick, or villain, I was going to go all female cast, and I was going to make Samara Weaving the villain, but then I thought, nope, that's too much like the babysitter. That was really,
right. Yeah,
that was really my thought process. Like, fuck no, they already did that.
Hey, people team up on multiple projects, so
yeah,
we can do that. We can do whatever we want. It's our world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the thing I thought the least about was really why they were in the mall.
Yeah,
like I was like, like, tunnels under the mall. Like, why are they? Like, and then when Dan mentioned the fracking thing with the farms, like, fuck, that's good.
I was sweating bullets trying to come up with mine. It's like I gotta come up with something quick.
I was like, that's such a good modern, like, non-generic like plot.
Yeah, pretty good. I liked ours. I liked all of them. I would watch all three of our movies.
Yeah. I think the mall very much is, would be a little more, maybe even set it in the 80s.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
But Braun Breaker's pretty good. I was trying to think of other wrestlers that you would see as like second in command to a terrorist that would infiltrate the Playboy Mansion.
Yeah.
And then, like, Braun Breaker just screams a guy that would do that.
Your movie, Ant, sounds rated R for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's got to
There's
be
definitely
rated
some
R.
nudity.
Okay.
Yeah, mine's more PG-13.
That was going to be mine as well. I think
Wider
mine would
audience.
Mine's more of a live free or die hard.
Yeah.
Ripoff.
When I originally thought of Die Hard with the Playboy Mansion, I was thinking it would set it in the mid 2000s and have the protagonist being the girls next door.
Oh, that's funny. That'd be good.
But yeah, those are our three. Tell us which movies you would want to see, or what your Die Hard knockoff would be. And you could do that by reaching out to us on any of our socials. That's on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at TickTamPod. They call this movie on TikTok, or you could hit us up at Gmail, ticktampod@gmail.com. Another place to get a hold of us. All great places to get a hold of us. And if you have a few minutes, hit us up. Give us a 5-star review on your podcatcher of choice. Helps us out a great deal. And all that fun stuff. So that is our episode this week. And the director of Demolition High is Jim Wynorski. So for the fourth time, for Dan Aquino and Mark Myers, Anthony DeVecchio telling Jim Wynorski, well, you certainly made a movie, didn't you? Thanks for listening to They Called Us a Movie. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at TickTamPod. That's TCTAM Pod. You can also check us out on TikTok at They Called Us a Movie.